It did? Yeah. No, not at all.
A little better. Yeah, they flash. Where Dan's at?
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call the order of the Millersburg Area School Board. We'll start with a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Here. Mr. Enders? Here. Mrs. Gray? Here. Mr. Harris? Here. Mr. Miller? Present. Mrs. Mungold?
Here.
Mr. Nomier?
Here.
Mr. Peterson? Here. Mr. Minnick?
Here. Are there any public comments registered?
No public comments registered. We do have several board presentations.
Thank you. So we'll move into board presentations, and our first presentation is the high school girls basketball team recognition.
Ready? Okay, it's my honor to recognize the 2022-2023 PI District 3 AA girls basketball champions. First, we have senior Paige Rothermel. Next, we have junior Jana Strait. Next, we have sophomore Cameron Long. Next, we have junior Abby Valier. Sophomore Olivia Dyer. Junior Reagan Hale. Junior Lauren Rothermel. Junior Fallon McFadden. Freshman Chloe Morgan. Sophomore Emma Miller. And freshman Ava Shoup. And we also have head coach Chad Everhart. And Representative Kerwin is also here to give you guys something.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Kerwin, state representative for this area. Also, some of your neighbors, one of your neighbors as well, live right down the road. I want to congratulate the girls' high school team on their championship. I have a citation from the State House. I'm going to read it off here. But congratulations, girls. Good work. Hopefully those of you that are returning next year that aren't moving on to college are going to get another championship. Expect big things. Whereas the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania takes great pleasure in recognizing the outstanding achievements realized by the youth of this nation in a spirit of personal sacrifice, commitment to a common goal, and unity of purpose. And whereas the Millersburg High School girls basketball team is being honored upon capturing first place during the 2022-2023 PIAA District 3 Class AA Girls Basketball Championships. And whereas, to its great credit, the Millersburg Area High School girls basketball team won the district title by defeating Lancaster Mennonite School with a score of 54-19. Under the expert guidance of head coach Chad Everhart and assistant coaches Alicia Brocious, Jason Miller, Paige Allman, and Tiffany Miller, the team was comprised of Paige Rothamel, Jana Straight, Cameron Long, Abby Villier, Olivia Dyer, Reagan Hale, Lauren Rothamel, Fallon McFadden, Chloe Morgan, Emma Miller, Ava Shoup, Ruth Wilt, Madeline Weaver, Jenna Wilbur, and Hayden Green. Also providing support and assistance to the team were Zoe Shutt, Langston Everhart, Halen Mongold, and Phelan Savage, managers. Now, therefore, the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pays tribute to the members and coaches of the Millersburg Area High School's basketball team, as well as those who assisted them upon their well-deserved recognition and championship win. Acknowledges their investment of skill and effort in competing on a level which demands perfection, extends best wishes for every future success and personal fulfillment, and directs that a copy of this citation, sponsored by the Honorable Joe Kerwin on March 29, 2023, be transmitted to the Millersburg Area High School girls basketball team. Congratulations, girls. And Chad, I'm going to give this to you as well. Let's see if we can, somebody want to help him out? Congratulations again, girls, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Congratulations again. All right, moving on, our next board presentation is Rob Weary with the Citizen Standard.
I'm going to have Amber speak. All right.
Oh,
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will not take a lot of time. I know there's a very busy agenda. I'm here representing the Citizen Standard newspaper in Valley View. We did a promotion this year, first time for our paper, called Design an Ad. And what we did is we took the fifth grade students of Linkerville Elementary, along with the students at Mahantongo and Higgins Hubley Elementary School, and we challenged the kids to design ads, which we sold to the different businesses in the area, and we were awarding prizes for the best ones. So I'm here today to award the prizes for Linkerville Elementary to give them some recognition. I've given you all copies of the tab, and if you look on the back page of it, you can see the winners for Linkerville. So first up, I'd like to bring up our third place finisher at Linkerville, McKenna Schwalm. Is McKenna here? McKenna drew a lovely picture of a monkey for Lake Tobias Wildlife Park, and her ad reads, Lake Tobias, a fun family environment, go wild for Lake Tobias, and with all the pertinent information. So McKenna, for you, I present your original artwork framed, along with our sponsor, Knoebels Amusement was our sponsor. So for you, I have $20 worth of ride tickets for you. So congratulations, stay right here. And here's a copy of the paper for you. In second place at Linkerville was Peyton Crawford. Peyton drew a very nice ad for Baker's Archery with a deer and a target, and we have a lot of different things. So Peyton, here is your original artwork. and your tab. And for you, for second place, we have an all-day ride pass for Knoebels. So congratulations to you, Peyton. In first place at Lincolnville, it was Kira Hoffman. And what Kira did with her artwork is she very nicely recreated the Smucker's Garden logo here, and the best place to buy plants, a family-owned business, and all the pertinent information. They even have a coffee shop there if you didn't know it from this artwork. So Kira, here is your artwork for you. Here is your tab. And for finishing first place, I have 2 all-day ride passes for you to Knoebels. So congratulations on that. And I am proud to say that a Lincolnville Elementary student was the overall winner of the entire, from all the schools, and that was Cameron Haynes. Cameron, congratulations to you. She, for her drawing for Ned Smith Center, Ned Smith and Lake Tobias were very popular with the kids for the artwork. So she famously recreated the bridge at the Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art. And Ned Smith Center, go out with your family to hike at Ned Smith Center. So Cameron, congratulations. Here is your artwork and your tab. And for being the overall prize winner, we not only have 2 all-day ride passes for you to Knoebels, but we also have a $25 gift card for Knoebels, so you can purchase food, sweatshirts, whatever you want, go riding on the Skaloos many times as you want to. So, all right, we're not going to take up too much more time on the meeting. We're going to go out in the hallway and get some pictures of you all for the newspaper. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity, and we hope to do this again next year. So thank you.
Thank you, and great job, guys. All right, next presentation, Jamie Doyle.
Good evening. Those are hard acts to follow. A lot of talented students at Millersburg. So you should each have a copy of my handout at your places. I come bearing good news regarding your bond issue. If you turn to page number 2, the inside cover, you can see that we continue on that top chart to enjoy an inverted yield curve. And what that means is you're earning more on your investments, whether they're your reserves or your 2022 bond proceeds or these new 2023 bond proceeds. Once they settle, you're earning more than the rate you're paying on the debt. So that's always a positive thing. And we did catch a very nice dip in interest rates the day of your sale. You can see that in the lower right-hand corner on that bottom chart. Page 3 is a summary of the 14 different bids that we received from 3 different underwriting syndicates. We utilized the competitive internet auction process to sell your bonds, as we have historically. And the winning bid came from Janney Montgomery Scott. Their true interest cost was just over 4.09%, and they bid 5 times in order to maintain and secure that winning first place position. As you look down page 3, you can see we also bid out the bond insurance premium, and all 3 of the underwriting syndicates bid with AGM bond insurance, which was the slightly more cost-effective premium. The paying agent on this series will be Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company, and the optional redemption date, or the next date you can call these bonds back from the investors, is roughly 5 years on October 1 of 2028. If you look at page 4, that's just a chronology of those same 14 bids, and there were 5 activations of the 2-minute rule. And what that means is if someone put a first place bid into the auction site and there were less than 2 minutes left on the auction clock, 2 more minutes were added from that point in time to give the other underwriters a chance to sharpen their pencils and respond. So that indicates some good stiff competition. The next bunch of pages are your Moody's credit rating report, pages 5 through 12. So I'll let you peruse those at your leisure, but long story short, the district continues to do a great job of maintaining your A1 credit rating, which is above average when you compare it to all Pennsylvania school districts. So certainly kudos to the board and the administration, and keep up the good work. Your business administrator did a fabulous job on that grueling 1-hour-long credit rating call in order to have this report come out so favorably. Page 13 is the important page. If you were to compare this back to my handout in March 21st, you will see a couple of things. First of all, the total at the bottom of column 8, we did better over the life of the issue than projected by about $1,525,000 over the life, so that was good news. You'll also notice at the top of column 2, due to the favorable bids that we received, we were able to downsize the amount of bonds you're issuing. So you're actually issuing $8,225,000. And you may recall a couple of weeks ago, the resolution was for more than that you approved. So we will go ahead and file a certificate of non-completion with the Department of Community and Economic Development. So that's all you're issuing, $8,225,000. You'll also notice at the bottom of column 13, all in between your 2022 bonds that we issued last year and this new series of bonds, the millage equivalent at the bottom of column 13 came in better by about 0.21 mils. So you can see that now totals 1.61 mils. If you look at page 14, this is the amortization schedule that ties to that summary page we just looked at. So you can see in column 3 the coupons that Janney Montgomery Scott bid, and more importantly, their yields in column 4, which range from a 3.45% on the short end to a 4.15% out in that longest maturity. And as you look down column 4, you can see what I mean by an inverted yield curve. The rates are higher in the first couple of years, they decrease, and then they start to go back up again as you get further out the curve. If you look at page 15, you'll see your sources and uses of funds. And I would just point out in the middle of that page, settlement is scheduled for May 31st. That's the date that the money will be deposited into your construction fund and be available to pay invoices. And the box in the middle labeled yield of the issue, that's the rate we'll report to the IRS. You're effectively issuing this series of bonds at just over 3.98%. So a reminder to that inverted yield curve, you're basically issuing this series at 4%, rounding up slightly, and you're able to invest right now at a little over 5%. So we've met all the rules and criteria so that you're eligible to keep that 1% positive spread between the rate you're paying and the rate you're able to invest at. On page 16, you'll see your construction draw schedule, and that's been adjusted to reflect this pricing. So I won't belabor that. Page 17 is your updated overall debt portfolio. As always, I monitor this page for refunding opportunities. Your 2020 bonds appear in column 2, your 2022 bonds in column 3, and this new series of 2023 in column 4. And then finally, page 18 is just a summary of some of the highlights. I would say in conclusion, many thanks to the administration for all of their help in pulling the documents and the information together, and especially with the credit rating call. I was very pleased with the competitive process. I was very pleased with the outcome, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? We all just got very bright. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right, I don't think so, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to committee chair summary reports. HR committee. The HR committee did meet on the 2nd. You guys have the notes for that, or the minutes. Budget and finance. We didn't have a budget and finance meeting last month per se. We had a full board meeting to talk about the budget on the 26th. Yeah, budget presentation. Education policy committee. Thank you. Facility and security. Any information? You guys did on the 25th. Okay. All right, so we have minutes for the meeting. Okay. Sounds good, thank you. Approval of minutes, we have the regular board meeting from April 18th. We have the Facilities and Security Committee meeting from the 25th. Budget and Finance Committee meeting, which was the meeting of the whole board on the 26th, and the HR Committee from May 2nd. I have a motion to approve those minutes. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Miller, any questions or comments on those? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Report of board member liaisons. Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Miller? Nothing to report. Thank you. HAC, Mr. Harris? Thank you.
HAC, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of you. No meeting.
Thank you. PSBA, Mr. Eggleston. Thank you. Business Office Financial Reports, Mr. Petery.
Okay. So on this evening's reports, you'll see some new things this month. Jump back here to my documents. So if we look at the Treasurer's Report, you'll see a new column has been added out there at the far right for the PISLAF account. That is the account where bills will be paid from, or the invoices will be paid from when we make purchases with the P card. So you can see we did move an amount out there, out of Mid-Penn Bank. I don't have the exact interest rate on that PISLAF account, but it's in the mid-4s compared to 2.25 or 2.5 at Mid-Penn Bank. So having that money sitting out there, that $10,000, is not a bad thing. It's going to earn a higher interest rate than it being at Mid-Penn Bank. There are no payments to show out of that this month, but you will see one next month where, again, we're walking before we run with that. There was a $100 purchase that we used the procurement card for an emergency certificate, so you'll see that payment on the next month's report. But that's new for the Treasurer's Report this month. We'll keep that out there for you moving forward. Moving on to Capital Reserve, you can see our Pliget accounts continue to perform very well with the term account still sitting at 4.84. That's set to mature in June. And our prime account this past month earned 4.495. So very pleased with those two accounts. We'll take that. And moving on to the 2022 bond series. I don't think I have anything really to point out there. You can see the checks coming out that we've had approved for Crabtree Rohrball and the permits and things like that coming out of the account. So at this point, that's all coming out of the 22 bond series. The next report is a new report this month. Again, you heard the report from Jamie Doyle here regarding the sale of the bonds for 2023, and we have received a good faith deposit on the sale of those bonds, so that is shown to you this evening. Once we have settlement at the end of May, we'll get the full proceeds from that bond issue. So you'll see that go up after settlement. But the good faith deposit is there, and it did earn a little bit of interest there the last couple days of April. That's all I have to report on the financial accounts.
So do I have a motion to approve the 5 financial accounts? Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next are the budget status, revenue budget and expense budget. Anything to report?
Yeah, so everything's looking good there on revenue and expense budget status. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see how we compare to prior years. Again, on the Revenue side, 87.56 has been received of our budgeted revenues, which you would expect towards the end of the fiscal year here. Last year, we had some inconsistencies in accounting with the changeover in personnel in the business office. The year before that are Mrs. Arts's percentages, so you can see we're more in line with what we had back in 2021 on revenue, and the same thing on the expenditure side. Right now we're at 72.99. If you look at 2 years ago, 72.09, so we're right where we expect to be at this point in the year.
A motion to approve the budget summaries. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mrs. Gray, any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next are the school activity funds or accounts. Anything to note there?
I have nothing to note, but if there are any questions, we will look to our building principals to provide answers to those.
So let's get a motion to approve those three. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston, are there any questions or comments?
I have asked the same question, archery club. Why that raised the balance?
The money that's in the balance was raised from the tournament they had.
I understand
And
why.
that's how much they raised for that tournament. And they've had one expenditure since then, and we just had another one went out today. The teacher would save a couple $1,000.
So there are no specific plans for this amount of money.
But funding the group the following year.
So what does the school district provide versus what the club provides? Like, does the club provide the transportation, the entry fees? Like, what types of things come out of that money?
I think it's mostly club supported. They've purchased a lot of targets this year. Paid for a lot of the expenses they've had in the tournaments.
And I understand what you're saying. I know where it's coming from. You're giving a full answer. I just can't understand why other clubs, environmental, that one has to go too. I'd like to know why. There's other clubs in here that are dealing in 1,000 and less. And now we have an archery club dealing with $12,000 balance after a $3,000 payment out of it. And we've got now a drama club, which I understand that's the play. I understand. Why that kind of,
I think it's reflective of the number of kids involved, and the size of the organization, what it costs to fund the group.
okay, I just think the taxpayers of Norfolk have better things to do than
But I guess
have a club in this district with a $12,000 balance.
I guess
No intention or no planned expenditure.
I guess my confusion is that student funds that they raise, it's not district funds, so I'm not sure the concern there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Approval of bills and disbursements. We have bills and disbursements for April 14th, 28th, and May 9th. Anything to point out there, Mr. Petrie?
Nothing to point out. It's a fairly light round of check registers this month.
Anyone want something handled separately? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve all three. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Miller, any questions or comments on them? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Minnick?
Yes. All right, moving on to staff reports. Mr. Leiter?
Good evening, everyone. I have a few items on my report, but there's a couple I'd like to just bring out. State monitoring of federal programs for Title I, Title II, and Title IV will happen on Friday. That process is where I upload a lot of documents to a program called Fed Monitor, and then the state looks at all of those documents to see if what we're doing is in line with what we're supposed to be doing. This is a first-time process for me, and it's a lengthy process, so I will be sending that in on May 12th, so hoping that everything I did this year was in line with what the state's expectations are. And then that falls right into the second note that's on here. I just want to give a special thank you to Mr. Kim Sowers because he had a lot of experience dealing with federal programs. I called Kim, said, Kim, could you come down and help me? It only cost me a pizza, a round of 9 holes of golf, and a Coca-Cola drink afterwards. So I just want to thank Kim for all of his help and support to come down here. Also, we were popular this year for monitoring, so for the first time in 19 years, Lankerville Elementary School was monitored for the PSSA math assessment. That makes employees nervous when a state monitor comes into their building to check out to make sure they're doing all of those procedures correctly. We did receive a letter that stated that all of our processes are in place and seem to be sound. So a special thank you to Ms. Owen and Mrs. Calger, and to the staff of Lankerville Elementary School for helping us get a good report from the state monitors for PSSA testing. So I'll take any questions that you might have on items that I spoke about or items that I didn't speak about. All right, thank you.
Mrs. Horning?
Hello, everybody. Lots of exciting things going on in special education, completing 5th grade transition meetings, conducting early intervention student meetings, attending IEP meetings, continuing to assess the needs of students in outside placement. Also, I interviewed and I'm recommending to hire a full-time instructional aid position and also a substitute instructional aid position. And there's contracts on the agenda for ESL services and special education services through the CAIU.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Troutman?
Good evening. Just a couple things. The vertical incline lifts, I heard back from the salesperson that one of the drawings is done that I need 3 of them. One of them out of 3 is prepared for me to apply for the permit. So that project is moving along. You'll also see on this evening's agenda to approve the agreement, the grant agreement, and accept $15,000 from the Dauphin County Local Share Municipal Grant. Again, that money is going to be applied to the vertical incline lift project. Couple items sold on Municipid. The last is tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and that stuff will be picked up in 30 days. Paving at Lankerville, hot topic for a while. That is done. I also attached a before and after. I think it was Friday night, about 10 of 6, they were pulling out. I got one of the dump trucks in the picture, but I was over there about 10 of 6 there wrapping it up, and I took a picture. Again, I had a before picture and an after picture I have attached to the agenda, so you can just see how bad it is and what it looks like now. Mark Chudley completed the inspections of the roof decking at Lankerville. Heard from him yesterday. It'll be just a couple days. He'll have his report done, and I'll certainly forward that on to the board also for their review. Graduation, just a couple items I'm prepping for. Again, got some golf carts lined up to transport some people from the parking lot to the athletic field for graduation, rented the chairs for graduation, reserved them and rented them. So a couple of the highlighted items. So any questions on anything?
Any questions? So did our job get done before Mr. Miller's? Okay. Very good. Thank you.
I wasn't going to poke at him either.
Mr. Ross.
So there's only a couple of items tonight. The big one is our new school messaging system has launched now. We did launch that on Friday, kind of very last minute before this meeting. We did notice a couple of issues, but we're working on that now. Mr. Shover was alerted that quite a few staff didn't get that, so we're fixing that. The other big ones, we're still working on getting a lot of requirements for the new Act 151 in place. That will be a several-year process, but we're looking better now to have that pretty well in place for next year. And the other major item on there is, I believe Dr. Pushnik and Mr. Petrie will speak on it, the administrative cell phone plan with Verizon. That was brought to the committee last week, I believe. That we currently have everything in place for it. Assuming it is enacted, we'll have everything ready to roll out with that probably within about 2 weeks. Are there any questions on anything on there?
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Calger.
Good news, 0 students left to go to an outside cyber. For next year, online vendor prices, next year we're going to have 4 vendors. And Edison is only raising their credit recovery class $12. All the other vendors are staying the same price. The online recovery class is paid by the parents, so no cost to us. Later down on the agenda is 20.3.4. It talks about our Keola agreement. And that agreement / contract, there's no price change from the 22-23 school year. Nothing changes there. It's the same contract, same. So I want to let you know about that when it comes down on the agenda. Something very exciting coming down is 20.4 about the cooperative education. Now, I'm going to try to do the best I can to kind of explain it. Dr. P, I might need your help here in a little bit, but we're going. So right now, our district is trying to get what's called a diversified occupation program. Diversified occupation is similar to co-op, where students will leave half a day and enter the workforce. This will be for 11th and 12th grade students. And with this diversified occupation, students will not only be receiving high school credits, but also possibly college credits. And with that said, with this diversified occupation, we need to try to get this done by May 31st so our district can receive subsidies from the state. And in order to receive subsidies from the state, there's a whole bunch of things that we have to do. We have to get an articulation agreement, which I will talk about here in a little bit. We'll also talk about what's called a local advisory committee and an occupation advisory committee. So with that said, I'll talk a little bit about our articulation agreement. With our articulation agreement, we have right now on, I believe it's 20.3.5, it's with Penn Tech College. So in order for our students to get 3 credits or an elective waived, they have to get approved PDE program with diversified occupations. So with that being said, they go to Penn Tech, they're in our approved diversified occupation, they get 3 credits waived. And in order for us to get approved by PDE, we need this articulation agreement. So that's what it's about later on the agenda. Next is what's called a local advisory committee. Most people call it LACs. What our local advisory committee, and I'm hoping I'm going to say this right, they help steer, kind of like the school board, our students, our programs. They just give ideas. They don't say we're doing this is what's going to happen. They just give us input and we listen to them and see how we can better help those students in these programs. That's what our local advisory committee, which you will see later on in the agenda. The next is, I kind of like call it the subcategory of a local advisory committee. The occupation advisory committee is basically the skill they're going to learn. And for a diversified occupation, we're sending them out to either MI, Mountain Ridge Metals, MI, I said that already, but WISE, BGs. It's basically a company that is willing to take on our cooperative education students, our diversified occupations, and then they will get high school credits and possibly college credits. Did I do okay, Dr. P?
Did excellent.
Thank you, okay. I'm learning as I go, everyone. So in order for us to get approved by PDE, we need the articulation agreement, which is on the agenda. We need an LAC, which is a local advisory committee, and we need an OAC, occupation advisory committee. So those are the things later on in the agenda that we need. Any questions? Yes?
So, at the beginning of your presentation before all of that, you mentioned that there's a piece of the cyber that is paid for by the parent.
Yes.
What was that?
Well, if students, I hate to say this, if students fail a class during the year, subject. I'm still in elementary mode. Yes, a subject. They can get what's called a credit recovery class. And for this KOLA, it's like an adaptive credit recovery. They can take a fast-paced course. And with that being said, students will take this course and then they pay the district back. And right now it's like $95 per quarter. You're welcome.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Mr. Shover.
My report's not nearly as exciting. You have it in front of you there. Getting to the end of the year, the course selection process is finished, and we're now actually working on schedules for students for 23-24. So that's rolling. We had a fantastic prom. We have ordered the same exact weather that we had Friday for commencement, so we hope we get the exact same type of day. But the prom went very well, no concerns, no problems. We had 85 kids stay for post-prom. It was actually a little higher than that. We had a couple kids from Westburg come. I want to thank Mr. Leiter, who was there for a few hours. Mr. Minnick, I think you lasted the whole night with me. Am I correct?
The whole night.
I really appreciate that for the all-nighter, and obviously the PTSO and all the parents that helped out. It was a fantastic party, a lot of great gifts, and more importantly, we kept our kids safe and had them here all night. After we now finish up PSSAs tomorrow in the middle school is the last day, and then we turn to Keystones immediately next week. So we have 6 days of Keystones out of 7 days, and then of course as soon as we get done with them, all of our focus goes on the end of the year graduation and end of the year events. So any questions anyone has for me?
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Godsey.
So we're reaching the end of the spring sports season, and with that comes senior recognition. So we've had track and fields and softball happen today. Baseball will have their recognition on Thursday. A couple important dates for athletics in May. We have the league track meet tomorrow, and we have the district track meet next weekend. And Coach Stefan has told me we potentially will have 20 track athletes in that event, which is about a third of the team, which is pretty good. So we'll see how that all lines up. Softball, we're tentatively hosting the first round of Tri-Valley League playoffs on Monday, and then we'll be hosting the first round of district playoffs the 22nd, which is the following Monday, if everything holds the way it should. Fall sports sign-up started on May 1st. Probably in the next week or so, I'm going to start going to lunches to remind kiddos about that so they can get signed up for fall sports. I received the Tri-Valley League schedules for the 24-25 and 25-26 school year, so I entered those into our scheduling system, and then I'll start non-conference scheduling in the next few months. And then I gathered some helmets and uniforms as part of a uniform proposal I had for you this evening, a disposal proposal I have for you this evening.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but just a suggestion as a parent who helped their kid find the Google form to sign up for a fall sport. It wasn't the easiest thing to find on the website. So I know that we have that news section. If there's just a way that we can get it out there so it's easy for parents to find. Not all teenagers are good at coming home and saying, hey, this is what we have to do now. So I think that would be helpful for parents who do check the website, if we can maybe get it on social media so they know, go to the district website, and then there's a link right there that they're not navigating through schools and the athletic page. And I mean, it was definitely more user-friendly than before,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still more than like quick click and you're there. And again, teenagers aren't always good at bringing home information or checking their school email or whatever. So that was just a suggestion.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Gotzi. Mrs. Smelts.
Everyone.
And welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great first 2 weeks. So in honor of National Teacher Appreciation Week, I just wanted to acknowledge all of our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our secretaries, maintenance, and janitors for all their dedication that they've given the school. As Mr. Shover said, we completed the ELA and math portion of the PSSA. Today we completed the first section of science, and tomorrow we're going to complete the second and last section of the science PSSAs. On June 5th, our student council is planning a PSSA fun day for our students as a reward. Tomorrow, Mrs. Scott and Mrs. Evelyn are taking 9 of the students to the IU to compete in a Challenge 24 competition. So we're hoping they come back with medals for that. Thursday, May 11th, the middle school students are going to be attending the Harrisburg Senators game. We're hoping some of our students come back with baseballs that were hit to them. We're looking forward to an eventful day. And then on May 19th, we have 8th graders. They'll be visiting Gettysburg for the day. This trip is funded by the Gettysburg Foundation. Students will visit the museum. They're going to go to the cyclorama and have a guided tour, and possibly, I'm told, that one of Millersburg alumni, Britt Eisenberg, could be their tour guide for the group. That's a possibility if he doesn't have anything else on his schedule. So I know Mrs. Kirkwood is really excited for this trip. That's all I have.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Owen?
Hello, good evening. So I'll piggyback off. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, so we are excited to celebrate all of our teachers, and we thank our PTO for setting up a really awesome, tempting table of chocolates and various foods that I'm trying to stay away with, but we just really appreciate it, and we really appreciate our teachers. It's also School Nurses Day tomorrow, so we celebrate them as well and appreciate everything that they do and handle and touch on a daily basis. Things I don't want to do. PSSA is wrapping up. Tomorrow's the last day. We'll all breathe a sigh of relief once that is done. We had a lovely surprise from the auditor. He was a wonderful gentleman. And I just want to thank Mrs. Calger for her organization and her expertise in putting everything together. So I didn't even sweat when he walked through the door because I knew that we were going to be good to go. She's top notch. The Spring and Band chorus concert was incredible. So hopefully you all got to be there and see the amazing talents from all our kiddos from Lankerville. And a thank you to Mr. Slammer, Mrs. Slammer, and Mr. Campbell for everything that they do for our program. Also a thank you to Mrs. Eggleston for everything that she did with organizing Earth Day and kindergarten registration, and the whole kindergarten team as well. That went really, really well. It was very nice to see all the little kinder faces coming in, excited for next year to join us. Also a thank you for our administrative assistants. We celebrated them this past couple of weeks ago. I would be lost without Mrs. Troutman and Mrs. Adams, so I appreciate them greatly and everything that they do. Our team went to Math 24 competition today, so I don't know how they all fared out, but I'm excited to hear how it went. I got a few of them, so it sounded like they did a nice job, and we're really, really excited. So I'm excited for them. Lastly, I've been trying to get in all the rooms and learn all the names of hundreds of students. So far, I think I have kindergarten down, so I'm getting there, but I'm going in, reading to the students, and just spending some time in the classrooms, and it's pretty cool. So any questions for me?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Petery.
Thank you, Mr. May. Items on tonight's agenda for approval, the biggest being the proposed budget is on tonight's agenda for approval. As we shared at the budget presentation here the other week, the budget is in the amount of $19,879,274. That does include a increase of 5.5% in the real estate millage, which equates to 1.2092 mils. Takes us from our current millage rate of 21.9858 to a new proposed millage rate of 23.1950. That is the adjusted index in accordance with Act 1, so we are within the boundaries of Act 1. That increase will provide an additional revenue of approximately $338,000. And as we discussed, major cost drivers for the upcoming budget, cyber charter school tuition, which is $1.3 million of the budget, special education expense, and the debt service for the new elementary addition. Following the proposed budget approval, we have a approval for the tax levies for next school year. So under the tax levy resolution, there is a tax based on 100% of the assessed value of occupation, which is $250 for all employed persons, 18 years of age and over, residing within the district, with exemption upon application for unemployed persons and individuals who meet the income guidelines. That is expected to produce $504,000. We have a resident tax of $5 on all persons 18 years of age and older residing within the district. That's expected to produce just over $16,000. Also includes the millage increase, which I had just spoken about. 23.1950 would be the new millage rate. In total, with a 95% collection rate, that would produce $5,958,361 for the district. Following that, there is approval of the homestead, farmstead exclusion funds. We received word that our allocation this year is $317,186.31. Excuse me, misspoke there. That comes out to about $195.35 per approved homestead or farmstead, which their taxes would be reduced by. And we need a resolution to accept that. That is, in comparison to last year, is roughly $1,000 more than we received last year. Last year, if you recall, we received a pretty big boost in the homestead allocation. So not much change in it this year. Next bullet point is there's agreement to extend our tax collector in Millersburg Borough. Mr. Hoover, who was elected as the tax collector for Millersburg Borough, has agreed to extend our ongoing yearly agreement to have J.P. Harris continue to collect taxes for Millersburg Borough. We do this every year. This one will expire this June. We do have a signature from Mr. Reaver and Mr. Harris that Gareth sent a sacrificial lamb in his place this evening for that, but that is on this evening's agenda.
Questions?
Finally got us. There we go, Jonathan. The enrollment report real quick. We have district total, we're up 3 students. Down several months. Tonight, looks like John, microphone for me here. We're talking too much. Testing there. Maybe it might be me. Let's keep it right there. All right, we got it. We got it. All right, so Dr. A, Relationships First initiative. I did want to bring that up in my report tonight, that the funding stream that we've used in the past 2 years to pay for that is down to an amount of around $10,000. And so with the admin team and our admin meetings, we've discussed what the thoughts are administratively moving forward with this initiative. Some of the thoughts that we're having is that, if we can partition off some of those responsibilities maybe that Dr. A or Allison had done in the past, that maybe we could reallocate some money, maybe in a different way for some other trainings in addition to keeping the Relationships First initiative going. The other thought or discussion was that maybe we see what we can what services we can obtain from Dr. A in the amount of that $10,000. I guess a third option would be that we utilize the remaining $10,000 and maybe we try and look for other funds locally to make up the additional $20,000 that it's for the year, which is roughly for Dr. A the initiative. It's been about $30,000 to $33,000 a year. Are there any thoughts around the table tonight of maybe of a direction for the admin team to maybe pursue regarding the Relationships First initiative utilizing Dr. A? So the funding stream that we've used to pay for Dr. A, we only have $10,000 left for next year, and her services run about $30,000 to $33,000 a year. And so I'm looking for direction as our admin team is of whether we try to replace or basically take on some of those responsibilities and maybe utilize that $10,000 in a different manner for some staff trainings, whether we try and see what services we can get from Dr. A for $10,000, or whether we try to reallocate some funds from somewhere else to try and make up that additional $20,000. Just looking for direction of what you would like to see from the admin team from a Dr. A Relationships First initiative. So we would be looking at that core team, and we do have a relationships first committee for the district. That does exist as it is right now, so potentially to get trained to be able to then be the leaders throughout the district. Other thoughts? Very good. All right, so I'm seeing some head nods and some agreements of.
I'll give you one other thought since everybody's done. So that's a good idea, Tennille. Another option to look at would be it's kind of a both and. It's that type of idea, but I would still say look at what outside opportunities there are outside of Dr. A, and maybe we don't figure it out this year, but we need to continue to look at those types of programs in the future. So I would say even if we go forward with our team, get them some training so they can be more supportive of the folks here, I would say still continue to investigate what's out there. You know, I know Mr. Haupt did some of that prior to Dr. A, but what are resources out there that we may be able to use in the future?
Character development, possibly those types of things. Mr. Leiter, can you speak to that?
But so I guess the short answer is it was ESSER's funds that were.
Yes, it was ESSER's funds. It's either ARC ESSER or the ESSER set-aside grant. It's one of those two, but it is an ESSER grant.
So it is earmarked for a few specific categories. It can't be utilized for cleaning solutions and whatnot. That is a separate ESSER. This was strictly for training and the collaborative efforting.
My understanding is that we have options outside of Dr. A, but it's still got to be within the same theme.
So to that end, I think I like the idea of investing the money in our own people. That $10,000 isn't going to go far with outside, less expensive outside influence. So I like the idea of spinning up a team or improving, helping the team that we already have perhaps be there and continue to drive the continual surveys of our teachers, of our support staff, of our students, of our families, continuing that process that began with Dr. A. That way you have some data that you can continue to see improving, areas that continue to need improvement, et cetera. And that outside funds aren't going to go as far as having somebody continue to do that. So I like the idea of getting somebody in-house to continue working on that data and compare, or to give to the admin to compare.
Roughly a little over 60,000 is how much we have invested over the last 2 years.
We're going to part ways with her. Can we get a final report on everything that has happened with her and what results we found? Do that before we go any further?
We can absolutely do that. All right, thanks everyone for your input, and with that is my report for tonight.
Okay, moving on to board action items. First set of action items are personnel action items. We have requests for uncompensated leave. We have employees A, B, C. That's it. So A, B, and C. Do I have a motion to approve those three uncompensated leave requests? Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Peterson, thank you. So you need to raise your hand more. So I normally have a list. All right. I apologize. Any questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next, we have resignations. We have one resignation, Mrs. Dawn Hoffman. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Eggleston, second, Mrs. Mongol. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Recommendation for employment, we have two, Brianna Smith as a substitute paraprofessional and Angela Hebert as a full-time instructional paraprofessional. Do I have a motion to approve those? Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? I'm sorry, I missed that. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next is supplemental contracts, athletics. We have one for Mr. Whitman for summer weight room supervisor. Motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mrs. Gray, question.
I don't know for certain, but, yeah,
Do
well,
you think Mr. Godsey would know?
Mr. Godsey.
So that's our position. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next, we have a staff reassignment. Mrs. Brandy Ryland being reassigned to a fifth grade teacher starting next school year. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston. Question.
That's correct.
I think when we look at our hiring practices, this candidate or applicant has applied. And from that standpoint, we want to put the best person in front of our students, and we support our staff, even if that is in a different position.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? No. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is summer school tutors. We have 6 of them there. Do we have a motion to approve all 6? Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next, we have approval of extended school year teachers. We have 4 of them on there with specific hours for each of them. Motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mrs. Gray. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is a middle school guidance counselor. The Administration and Human Resource Committee recommend approval to begin advertising for a middle school guidance counselor position. A motion to approve, Mrs. Mongold, second, Mr. Eggleston. Questions, comments? Mr. Harris.
We do.
So it's a fair question. I think that'll be one of the benefits of having our elementary school attached to our building. We do think that we are going to be able to have collaboration among staff. To answer your question, though, middle school's some rough years. And so all of our counselors are busy both at the elementary and the high school. There is definitely a need at this point for a middle school counselor.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. All right, the next item is the 2023-2024 proposed budget and tax items. So the first one is the proposed budget. So can I have a motion to approve the proposed budget? Mr. Enders, second. Mrs. Mongold. Any questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? No. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next is the 2023-2024 tax resolution. Do I have a motion for the tax resolution? Mr. Eggleston, second. Mrs. Mongold, question. Go ahead.
Comment. So per Mrs. Doyle's presentation today, and we knew this when we voted to approve the building, that a millage increase was necessary. And if everybody in the public looks at the budget presentation that's online, it is abundantly clear that even though I'm in favor of this budget and it's necessary to do so, we must reach out to Mr. Kerwin, who was nice enough to come tonight for the basketball team, but it'd be nice if he and Mr. Rothman and both sides of our state government could revise and fix the funding issue. It is untenable and unfair to the local taxpayers to be paying these increases every year for the foreseeable future and still run a deficit. We are not getting compensated for our special education program, for our outside cyber service, and those two gentlemen are the only people that have any say in making that change. And we all have to advocate, not just the 10 people around this table, but the public needs to do something and advocate for change at the state level. I'm done off my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is the homestead exclusion, and this was described by Mr. Petrie earlier. To have a motion to approve. Mrs. Mongold, second. Mr. Enders. Question. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray? Yes. Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold? Yes. Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is the extension for the Millersburg Borough Real Estate Tax Collector. Motion to approve. Mrs. Mongold, second. Mr. Eggleston. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray? Yes. Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold? Yes. Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item, or next series of items are agreements. District cell phone plan is the first one. This came out of committee. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Eggleston, second. Mr. Enders. Any question?
So currently, the 4 lines that will be added will be our 3 or actually be Mr. Shover, Ms. Owen, Mr. Troutman, and Mr. Cowger. When we look at the time, both within the district and outside the district, we had certain administrators with a cell phone, certain administrators without, and there was a need or a decision, I should say, from that standpoint, to ensure that everyone has a cell phone is responsible then for being able to be contacted both during, say, their hours here and then also their hours on the weekends and evenings for the use of their time to have a district provided cell phone.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray? Yes. Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mrs. Mungold? Yes. Mr. Novinger? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. I'd like to do the next 3 together. They are the CAIU Special Ed, CAIU English Language Development, and CAOLA agreements. So could I have a motion to approve those? Mr. Miller, second. Mr. Enders, any question on those 3? Mr. Miller? Yes. Go ahead, Mrs. Mongold.
So I do this every time this comes up because I know that there are teachers in our districts that are certificated in ESL. So I just want to make it very clear that if we have people in-house who can provide services, it is in our best interest to try to make the schedule work so the people that we have with certificates to do those things are doing those things if possible. I understand that everyone needs work, but again, if you bring in the future everything to one campus, hopefully some of these ELL, ESL services are things that we can start to do in-house because that is something that I know that there are people who that are capable of.
Other questions, comments?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't know of any others, but I'm sure there are. So that's something, if the board would like to take a look at maybe some other outside resources that could potentially provide those services, that's something that we could do. Sure. That is something we can do, and depending on how the vote goes tonight, that we could do for next year. We have in-house individuals that we could potentially look at for scheduling. The other thing I'll say too is the whole idea of an IU was to bring and have school districts bring their resources together to provide more as a group effort behind that. But I do realize that some of the costs that that is getting passed on to our districts, especially a small one like ours, is becoming burdensome in some areas. That's something we can take a look at.
Other questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is the articulation agreement with Penn College that was talked about by Mr. Cowger. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Miller, second. Mrs. Gray. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is the Lackawanna College dual enrollment agreement. Motion to approve. Mrs. Mungold, second. Mr. Enders. Questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item is proposal for school solicitor services for the 2023-24 school year. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Enders, second. Mr. Eggleston, any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. I guess we'll keep you around. All right. Dauphin County Local Share Municipal Grant Funds and Agreement. We have a motion to approve. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston, question. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Let's do the cooperative education all together. So we have the revised job description, the local advisory committee, the diversified occupation advisory committee, and the diversified occupation addition to course catalog. If everyone's okay, we'll do all four of those. Mrs. Mongol, second. Mr. Eggleston, any question?
Zero when it comes to salaries. There may be some training dollars for being able to be certified, that type of thing, but which would be a benefit per the Act 93 agreement anyways, though. Yes, and he will oversee the cooperative education program, yes. We got to educate them to do that. Yep.
Other questions?
On the advisory committee, that is not just a temporary situation. That is going to be an ongoing committee for years as our...
So what will happen with that, our local advisory committee is going to have to meet once a year minimum. The OAC will have to meet twice a year minimum. Those will need to be approved annually. So it's not you're not approving something tonight that goes into infinity for the next several years. They have the opportunity to be adjusted annually and then come back for reapproval.
So that OAC is going to continue as a
Correct. Yep. Defer to our solicitor if we need to, but I wouldn't see a reason. It's in an advisory capacity. It's not a governance. We definitely look to them for direction. Our LAC is direction for where we want to go is for our CTE classes, and not to, it's more as Mr. Cowrie did an excellent job explaining it tonight. But we have our middle school shop that's open. It's an open space right now. As we look to get our finances in order first, but then in the future look to grow of how we can have or utilize that space, that LAC and those groups would be part of the conversation of how we should grow when we get to that point in the future.
And so I did have a nod from Mr. Harris that that would be okay for you to vote. Any other question? So, Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray? Yes. Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger? No. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. Next item, general supply bid award. Do a motion to approve. Mr. Eggleston, second. Mr. Enders. Any question? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders? Yes. Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. And the last voting item we have is recommended sale of athletic equipment, football helmets, and jerseys. I believe that was in Mr. Godsey's report. I have a motion to approve. Mrs. Mungold, second. Mrs. Gray, questions? Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Eggleston? Yes. Mr. Enders?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Yes. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Mungold?
Yes.
Mr. Novinger?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Minnick?
Yes. All right. Board sharing, what do we got? Mrs. Mungold.
I just wanted to say an additional thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Slemmer and Mr. Campbell for the spring concerts. Middle school and elementary school were wonderful. And also the Math 24 competition today, the length of our students attended. I think there was 5 of them, some 4th graders and 5th graders. I got the pleasure of getting the speech from my 5th grader who attended the Math 24 concert today. And they had a great time. It was a fantastic experience. Mr. Hunsinger made the team on the Math 24 team a really cool thing, which is not, math isn't always cool. So that, the math teacher, and that made my heart happy. He did a great job. They had awesome t-shirts. Thank you, Mrs. Melvin. They were very excited to travel to the IU today and compete. So I think that's great, and I love that we're celebrating things other things like sports. So.
Other board sharing. All right, President's report. We did have 2 exec sessions I needed to remind folks of or announce. We had an exec session on 5-2 for HR matters, an exec session for 5-9, or prior to this meeting, for HR issues as well. Just to echo Mr. Shover, prom walk was wonderful. I didn't go to prom, but prom walk was great. The kids looked awesome. Stage was good, or awesome as well. Post-prom, thank you to the parents who put it on. Thank you to the staff that came. I think the kids really enjoyed it. Every one of our juniors and seniors won something, so that's always cool. They enjoy that. Helps bring them out. So thanks to everyone who took part. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, which we heard about a couple times, so we should hear about it one more time at least. So thank you to the teachers, thank you to the staff. We do have an awesome staff here, professional and otherwise. They make the school. So thank you to them, and there will be provided by through the school board luncheon tomorrow for the teachers. I believe a taco bar, so that should be exciting. And And just again, echoing spring concerts, always do a wonderful job. So kudos to all of those folks. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Have a good night. If you guys need papers signed, you can come on up. Oh, Mr. Shover's taking care of them.